I want more money because I want to treat more people. That's it's basic. That's how our system works. There's no exception with the nonprofit world. If I want to give a better return to my foundations and to the community, I need to do more people that are impoverished, and I need to up the quality of care. And that all takes money.
The future of dentistry belongs to the innovators. Welcome to Innovation in Dentistry. I'm your host, Shawn Zajas, and I believe that the future of dentistry is going to be unbelievably great over the next decade and 2 decades. But the question isn't that.
The question is, are you going to be part of what makes dentistry great?
Okay, I could not be more excited today to be with the one and only Dr. Kris Volcheck of Brighter Way Institute, formerly known as the Cass Homeless Clinic. Dr. Volcheck, before I set you up, let me just say thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Shawn, I always have a good time interacting with you. So whatever the venue is, I'm going to enjoy it. So,
well, okay. So how do you want me to refer to you on this podcast? Do you want me to call you Kris?
Kris.
Okay.
Dr. Volcheck's too long. Yeah.
So Dr. Volcheck just has such a good sound to it. But okay, so Kris, innovation can mean so many different things, right? Especially in dentistry. Like we could talk about clinical innovation. There's business model and software innovation, like technological ones that really can make breakthroughs. But for this podcast, I'm fascinated by what gets somebody just to say, like, why not me? Because behind every innovation is a person that says, like, I can pioneer positive change. And I want to know about the positive change that you have pioneered. So tell me about your origin story in dentistry.
Yes, I will, Shawn. Um, so as you know, I was a private practice dentist for 9 years in Globe, Arizona. So small private practice, but I did not, I don't want to say I did not like it. I don't know if I wasn't good at it. I don't know what all the combinations. It's been a long time, but I just know because your memory makes a lot of things up. But I'm ADHD. I couldn't stand to be in those four walls all day long. I loved my patients. I love my patients. That's why I went into it to help people. Um, the only reason I chose dentistry because my dentist was cool. My physician wasn't as cool. As I think I told you, my dentist, pretty old. So my dentist, while he was injecting, he would smoke his cigarette and he would drink his bourbon. While I was injecting, he has his bourbon there, so he's drinking that. How could I not become a dentist? So he was the biggest influence. However, that is not the way one should pick a career just because your dentist is cool. So I did not at all. And at 9 year mark, I said I had to do something out of the treatment room, Shawn. I went back and got my MBA because I went back to my comfort zone of academia and jumped back into the MBA. And I thought I might do something with that MBA and DDS. And fortunately, at my MBA graduation, I met a formidable woman. Her name's Mary Orton. She is sort of the mother of homelessness for the city of Phoenix. She started the shelter, the Cass shelter, end of the 1970s. And that is when, of course, across the nation, every city had a homeless issue because we let all of the mental health institutions out without any alternative. So every one of those institutions opened up and all cities had a homeless problem. So we were no exception, and she started it. But I met her at my graduation, and I was so blown away by her effort and her charisma. And she said, why don't you come down and volunteer while you're trying to figure out your MBA DDS stuff? And so I did. This was just something to do. My mother did a lot of stuff, social work. I've always wanted to volunteer, but I was not, this meant nothing to me except going down and help the community a little bit. So I visited, I went down. I got there, there were 500 homeless people milling around. I was scared as hell. I wouldn't get out of that car, as you know, and I finally, I even started crying a little bit, I think, because I was scared. I did. And then finally, I got the guts to get out of that car and go in there. And they took me in as a volunteer, and I started handing out clothing and food. And within a couple months, oh, wow, I like this place. I more than like this place. I fit in here. So I had 2 years of volunteering while I was still practicing. And I decided, and I made rationalizations around this because I thought I'm a dentist, I have an MBA, I'm going to work with the homeless. I didn't do Peace Corps. I'm just going to do a couple years down here. So I left my practice and I started, the cash shelter hired me as a case manager. So I was in a trailer in the fields, in the riverbeds, and on the streets. And I stayed there. I didn't do my Peace Corps 2 years. I loved it so much, and it was my home ground. I stayed on the streets for 7 years. And those are most fulfilling, entertaining, as you can imagine, 7 years. You can't do better than spend your life on the street working with the homeless for 7 years. It's illuminating, it's transformative. And again, as I said, it's quite entertaining. So I was captured there. Those are my people. My intense ADHD, all the chaos was music to me. I was like, this is it. This is what excites me. But a couple things happened. You can imagine what I saw on the street. You can imagine the teeth that I saw on the street. And they didn't know I was a dentist. So, but I was out there helping them, but their teeth, of course, every one was bombed out and their pain and infection. And there I am. But so I got the opportunity. I found out about a 2-chair trailer from the Office of Oral Health. They allowed me to take it. Cass, my CEO there, said, give it a try, Kris. We need dental. So I pulled up a 2-chair trailer, 40 years old, stuck it in the field where I was doing case management, and started out with 60 volunteers. And we started the state's only homeless dental clinic. And that opened in 2001. So it's been 22 years now.
So wait. So the time from when you started at the clinic to when you started bringing dentistry, what gap was that?
So no, so I started volunteering in 91 and I was still practicing. In 93, I left my practice and got to be a case manager. I worked as a case manager from 2003 to 2007. I mean, to 1993 to 2000, when I grabbed a hold of the trailer. It took me a year to get the whole program set up. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I never ran a nonprofit or a dental clinic in a field with the homeless. So it took me a year to prepare that. And then January 1, 2001, we opened that 2-chair clinic, which you've been in. Or did you miss the trailer?
I think I showed up, maybe 5 or 6 years ago? So when did the
shit? Sorry.
You can say that. It's okay.
So
Now that we've
No.
marked it as an explicit episode, you're free to say whatever.
Are there markings for explicit ones?
I don't know. In the podcast, I don't know if I need to mark my whole show explicit because I've had some guests that swear. So I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Um, so 2001 is when I opened the trailer. And I haven't known you that long. That's 22 years ago.
So when I showed up, I think you were out of the trailer. You had a very established clinic already.
Right. Okay.
When I showed up. And for people that don't know, Kris, you were an early inspiration to me, in the sense that right then and there, I was considering pulling out of dentistry because I was I, I wasn't really liking dentists. Um, I was trying to connect with them, right? I was trying to get something real. Like, hey, like, are there any struggles? Are like, how is life? And everything was, they were crushing it, and it was just amazing.
Because all American guys are crushing it. We're all crushing it.
And I'm thinking, well, I'm struggling in business trying to sell to y'all. And if you guys are just like inhuman, I don't know if I can't care about the people in dentistry, then I can't care about dentistry. And thankfully, I just met Dr. House. So she gave me hope. And then I met you, and I'm like, okay, my two favorite people in dentistry, Dr. House and Dr. Kris Volcheck. I think there's a chance I can stay. So the only reason why I'm here today, 50% of it's because of you. That's a big deal. So you're one of my heroes.
I'm having dinner with Dr. House tomorrow. So there was the two of us. So I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, Shawn.
Okay. So part of what I'm interested in too is like,
yes.
right, the dream for dentistry is you get the education, it's not cheap, and then you live the dream life of making lots of money. And after 9 years, you were fine to just be like, this isn't me. It doesn't check the fulfilling.
Right. Because I tell that story, it sounds simple. It was the least simple thing to me to do in my life. I was torn completely. You have a DDS, an MBA. You should be doing these big things over here and making a lot of money, but that's just what you were taught, but it doesn't fit. What are you going to do? You're going to be a loser. Are you a loser if you work with the homeless, or are you a great guy? In the capitalistic system, well, it's both. You can be loser. And what did you do? My family, what are you doing with that DDS and MBA? I'm in the field with the homeless. They're freaking out, and so am I. I was like, well, I don't know what to do. I found my place on earth, but how was I going to, build a family, build a life? What was I going to do? So that trailer came along and allowed me to put my DDS and my MBA into something that I could have passion for. I completely lucked out as a being to land on that plot of land that was meant for my personality. And I never take that for granted. Did I ever think that I would have any association with the homeless? No, I did not. I feel very fortunate. Whatever my genetic mix is in my environment, especially from the mom side of social work, I got there. And so I don't take big credit in the sense of that. We're all very fortunate. My mix happened to work there. So I got to feel all the societal pressure. Like, oh, you should be doing more than being a case manager, which I think teachers and case managers are the most important thing in the world, but that's just not how it works. So I got that, but I also ended up having a huge career that has spanned It's not teeth. It's not even, we have big clinics and we do great work, but I get to be involved in social work still. I still go out on the street on Tuesdays because I can't not go out there. And immigrant issues, domestic violence issues, these are what interest me. Teeth, I'm glad that's important component, and I'm glad that has been actually my savior. But it's all the other components that have made my life so big. When I think of being in private practice, a lot of people, that's a worthy cause of private practice. You are helping people. I got that. But for me, with my own chaos needing chaos, this was perfect, and I still got to be like, oh, it's Dr. Volcheck. You got some legitimacy. You're doing something. So I got the best of both worlds. I didn't have to be beaten up by my family and society and saying, you're not doing enough to this. So there you go. I don't know how someone gets so lucky.
So Kris, I'm curious because like I love the honesty of I pulled up and I was afraid. And I think so much of fear in general has to do with the unknown. It just has to do with what if, and this like there's this difference and there's this context of I'm not really sure. And knowing you now, I don't know if I would have guessed that. So that's so reassuring to me to know that you can relate to anyone that visits you that might be like, uh, am I okay? Like, is everything fine? Am I safe? What happened in those first few months? Or was it like in the first day where all of a sudden you realized these are people and I don't need to be afraid?
Um, that's a long time ago. But I will say what I remember is that I very quickly felt at home, very quickly. Uh, Probably because I felt like kindred chaotic spirits. I think a lot of that is I have my own chaos. I see the world as more frenetic, and so they were reality to me. They were life. So no, I was like I pulled in and there was a bunch of my family there. I just had never met them. So no, that piece came along pretty quickly. Took me a while to think, my gosh, this is my place, because I just couldn't fathom that. But no, I became comfortable really quite quickly. Yeah.
So if there's like a dentist listening right now and maybe they can identify to like the first, think about, you said 9 years, like, was it early on in private practice that you were aware, um, this is the convention is I'm a dentist, so this is how I practice, but it just doesn't fit. Like I'm the square peg trying to make it work in the round hole and I'm trying to fake it. I'm going through the motions. Some parts of it I like, but man, if I look in the mirror 30 years from now and I keep doing the same thing, I don't know if I can respect myself because I'll know I didn't stay true to who I am. What were some of the tells? Like what was there any of the writing on the wall that showed up early on that you were just like, you know what? Do what every other dentist does, put your head down, grind it out. Like, or were there some signs that, hey, this is problematic even from the onset?
It's all of that. Life isn't, I was confused. I thought, oh, this is gonna get, I've been through everything. I remember. This will get better. This will get better. I know this will get, once you get to know the pattern, you'll get in the groove here. No, maybe when you start doing more complicated things, it won't be so boring. Then I'd go back and forth and no, hell, I can't do this. And then I'd feel like a failure of thinking I'm going to quit. So I wouldn't quit. So you go through all of that in 9 years because, again, like everyone else, I was given this path. We're all brought up in a certain, I was given sort of a path, and my I followed that. But again, that I couldn't know that that wasn't going to be my sensibility until I did it. There was no way for me to know. The big bonus to that, Shawn, that of those 9 years is it gave me credibility as a dentist, though. Had I just come out and not, I would have no experience. But those 9 years gave me credibility to do something, and my knowledge was credible, and I could open something. So if I had left early, that would have been a disadvantage. So now I look at it, even though it was painful for me, now I look at it as quite the big advantage.
So here you are
no,
as I was going to say, so here you are as a caseworker, and then all of a sudden this opportunity shows up for the mobile unit. Like, did you anticipate that intersection?
no. And here was the problem with that. But hell, here I am, a dentist. This mobile trailer is available, and I sure as hell am not going back to dentistry. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. But what can I do? But, well, damn it, I'm going to do what St. Vincent de Paul's. They have a volunteer clinic, and I know that director there probably doesn't do much dentistry. So, oh shit, I'm going to do a volunteer clinic. I'm going to help the homeless. I have the knowledge. I can run the business, but I don't have to get in there and do dentistry. So I did in the beginning, of course, because I had so few volunteers. I had to do things. But no, that is the thing that all of that worked for me, because it didn't matter how much I loved the homeless, and it didn't matter how ruined their teeth were. I could not go back to doing dentistry. That was not a possibility. I wouldn't go back. So again, look how fortunate I am there with those circumstances, and then ending up with a large volunteer clinic.
So I was going to say, over from that time till now, how many number of volunteers do you have any idea have gone through the clinic?
Well, I'll just tell you that it's changed drastically, but on our timeline, by year 3, I had almost 300 dental professionals working out of that trailer.
Oh my gosh.
Well, here, I can't, I've told you this. I couldn't sell a product. I can't sell a product. There's nothing with my personality, you think I'm going to be a great salesman, but if I don't believe in that widget, hell no. But I can sell the heck out of the homeless because I believe in them. And if I get in front of you, I sincerely want you to join me, whether you're a volunteer or you are a foundation. So I would say that's my biggest gift is that. So because as soon as we hang out, I was enjoying hanging out with you. I love relationships, seeing what's happening with people sincerely, and I sincerely have a passion for the homeless. So I'll tell you this, what I learned later on from a sentence or a comment is people think they volunteer. If you ask them, their first answer is because I want to do good. I want to help people. But if you statistically analyze that, it's not true. Socializing. And if you do not give a village of fun and warmth and camaraderie, you will not end up with a volunteer program. So statistically, you come as a human being because you have camaraderie. Out of that comes all this production for the homeless. I didn't know that, but that's what happened.
Well, that kind of throws on me, though, the interesting dilemma of like right away after Kris Volcheck, because you are the brand. you're the heart, you're the culture. And I'm not saying you can't create that culture, but like who can
So,
fill your shoes?
so here's the thing. I'm a, Arnold, I am a typical founder in many ways. I've got all the chaotic, energetic, frenetic, drive your employees crazy founder. That's you can go across the board often. That's the founder. I got lucky there too because I do have those founder pieces, and I do have some great stuff, but I hinder things along the way because of my chaos. There's just nothing one can do about it. However, it was manageable enough, and I had my DDS and MBA to know what to do with the business, that I went from founder. And you've heard of founder syndrome, because a lot of founders that are like me, again, I lucked out, that are chaotic but innovative and pushy and aggressive and passionate, they that isn't the model you use for once you have a certain size of organization. The chaos becomes a problem.
Mm.
So you hear of founder syndromes, and I got lucky and got through that and got the right people in place. But I was a problem. I was a help and I was a problem. But I'm fortunate to be here 22 years later and be the CEO, because, again, you usually do yourself in.
Yeah, I guess I know what you mean. You've already created enough of a organization that it runs
If
in.
you pull me out now, that's how the whole thing. If you pull me out, I've been working on a succession plan. It's my obligation. Everything goes on. Everything goes on now.
What about your
So
story? Like, is that in a book yet? Is that on film? Is there a documentary? Because I feel like that needs to be told. Like it's you. It's what, if you bleed, it's what you bleed that needs to keep going. I think that needs to happen because it hasn't happened yet, huh? There's no documentary on Dr. Kris Volcheck yet.
I that has been brought up a lot, Shawn. It's not a priority of mine, but no. Again, back to, in many ways, I'm not a special founder. I'm a typical founder often, but
So when was it, if ever, that you were like, oh shit, this is really happening? Um, and
mm,
I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but it just kind of kept going or took on a life of its own.
um, I do remember this. I don't have a great memory, but there's some moments that you will not forget. And fear is powerful, as we spoke about. Fear is very powerful. It was an odd situation, but I had one day to make up my mind if I was going to keep that trailer and stick it in the ground. And I remember going home, Shawn, and getting under the covers. Literally, I was so scared of failure. I It was immeasurable, the like performance failure, that I might fail. And I don't have many big aha moments along the way. A lot of good things that happened, but that was one of the few times that it hit me hard. It was visceral. If you do not take this, you will have missed the opportunity. It's clear to me, and I don't have any thoughts about that, but it was so clear to me that if you did not take this, you have missed something that you would never experience in your life. And it was so damn clear to me. And I don't have those moments, but I had that. And I got up the next day and went down and signed that and started. But I was scared shitless. Yeah.
That's amazing that the fear of potential regret was stronger than the present fear of failure. Like
Yeah.
I love that. That's powerful, because my whole reason, Kris, for starting the podcast is that I believe there's amazing people in dentistry that are dentists or dental professionals, and maybe dentistry isn't completely it for them. And between the lines of what we're saying, they have their own idea, their own dream that they might be running from, because they're scared of just like, is the timing now? Am I ready? What if I try and people see I try and it fails? And what
Yeah.
if I just
No.
look foolish, right?
Yeah.
You know,
It's
and
yeah.
my whole thing is like, you'll never know if you don't just spread out your wings and go for it. But you'll definitely 20 years from now have the regret and be haunted by the, what if you would have gone for it? And the world has been so changed by your clinic, and it's all because you decided to take that chance and just go for it.
Again, it wasn't out of confidence. It wasn't out of ego. It wasn't out of any. It was fear of failure, and fear of missing out on something that I felt was going to be so transformative for me. I mean, I knew the homeless worked, but when that hit me, that you will miss out on something that very few people get to do, that was clear to me. Again, it was, yeah.
So anyone that knows you, that's seen you at a fundraiser or event, you move the room. You can like galvanize change and get people to follow you. Like, you're a true leader. Is that something that from a young age you knew was in you?
So again, we don't earn much. We do, we don't. That is absolutely my genetics. My father was a persuasive, gregarious leader that people followed. He did it for other reasons than I did. He had a completely different life. But those genetics of he whatever he again completely different life in his business. He walks into a restaurant, the chef comes out. He had whatever he wanted, they were surrounding him. Women, the chefs, whomever, where we went, that happened. I didn't earn that personality, and I only got a piece. I'm glad I didn't get all of it. It was too much. It was too much. And people think I'm too much. But he gave me a piece. And when he came down to visit, because he's all that he is about money and respect and women. That was it. That were his three things. And when he came down to see the shelter and then what we built in the clinics, he said, yeah, "This is big. I'm glad you did something big, but why the hell are you down here? You're not making any money. This is ridiculous." And but he just like that there was a big building there, and I said, "I don't care what you say. All this was built because I got a piece of your charisma. I just use it to help the homeless." And then he was okay with that. But oh yeah, I kind of helped build this building. But no, I got that from him. So I just was placed in a place that I could be, I don't know, a super salesman for the homeless. To put it in words, I'm just passionate about them, and that personality allows me to bring in people to the circle to help the homeless, to build a village. That's all I can tell you.
Just that story. I'm thinking like in a moment when it's almost like he had, I don't know, he's like kind of like dishonoring or giving you like a
Oh,
backhanded compliment, you still led with honor and said, well, hey, the gift I got from you, I'm using for this. I think that's just like mind blowing. I could think of so many ways someone else would have responded. I would have responded, and yet you still honored. It just says so much about the kind of person that you are, Kris. What do people not understand about the homeless? Here we are, in our modern day when there's a lot of issues, and I feel like they've only gotten exacerbated in certain cities where all of a sudden there's the tents, and I don't think a lot of us understand what's going on. By and large, from your experience, like what do people just not understand about the homeless?
yeah. And people don't understand, it's very normal because if you're not exposed to a population, any population, it's hard, but they're much more difficult to understand. So it took me on the street, even though I was comfortable right away, it took me, I would say, a year and a half or 2 years to know what I was doing with them to help them as a case manager because I had no experience. But I'm going to give you so in our society, we have children's clinics, as you know. People have an emotion for children, so they fund children's clinics. But and people have an emotion for our veterans, they fund veterans. But people don't particularly have an emotional feel for the homeless because they don't understand them. So there's multiple issues there with funding and how they get served or don't get served.
Wait, and
But
if I could just interject really
yeah,
quick, they also have a heart for animals because right there's this sense of like it's not their fault. The kids, it's not their fault. Maybe even like veterans.
and yeah, throw in animals. Throw in animals. We should shout it. Yeah, no, you gave that good example. Yeah, throw in animals. People, I have to say, if I didn't know the homeless and I was just not exposed, I'm probably going to give that buck to the dog before I gave it to the human. That a human, perhaps what I was saying, irresponsible. Why aren't they working? All those things that the homeless get. That's not who they are, but that is a legitimate perception because people, again, have not been exposed. And so they remember, and I chatted too, is veterans. People give money to veterans because they've served our country. That's one element. Perfect. I want to serve them who served us. But the biggest thing is because people think they have something happen to them and they say, oh, I'm sure a lot of your veterans have PTSD. Of course they're homeless. Who wouldn't have PTSD if they were being fired at or they've been shot? So people think, oh, something happened to that individual out of the ordinary. I will give to them. But it's the same as I do my presentations when people are out on the street with me. I said, let me give you examples. It's the same thing for the homeless. You should ask yourself, what happened to them? And you could say, she was raped at 10. He has a traumatic brain injury. His parents were meth addicts. He never got beyond fourth because he was abandoned, fourth grade, and left in the foster children system. It's what's happened to them. There's not people out there with our abilities to manage things on the street. For instance, and that's why I had a good bond with them is I know the chaos I have, the mental tribulations that I keep under control. Everyone has them, anxiety, depression, but I have amounts that I can manage. and I can manage them well enough to make money to put a roof over my head. They have exactly the same problems I have. Theirs are so intense, they're not manageable. And what do we judge them by? Is if you have a roof over your head because you're responsible enough to make money and get the roof. That's just not the case. But I understand well intentioned, good hearted people in the community wouldn't necessarily give funds for them because they don't understand that. It's not that they're not empathetic, it's just they haven't been exposed. And if you, one, like any population, any minority or anything, once you're exposed, you kind of realize that it's just us. It's just everyone. They just can't, the only defining piece is they can't manage their wealth and make enough money. We spoke about this before too, but here's what's happening now, Shawn, and this is, it opened some people's eyes. I had a good friend on my board, and she said, I don't understand homeless. I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to be able to be empathetic about this. You've got to help me because I want to be. And we went out on the street together. And here's what got her. She talked to a couple who were sleeping in their car. They've never been homeless before. Both have worked 2 full-time jobs their whole life, but they can't afford Phoenix any longer. They got booted out of they were in this rental for 15 years, but that got taken over and turned into higher end apartments, like what's happening all over. So that's also, she was able to relate to that. She felt horrible about that these 2 hardworking Americans, because again, let's go back to, she said, I have a stereotype about the homeless, but to have 2 hardworking Americans not be able to have a roof, that horrified her. So however you can get people to understand, I do, but again, mostly it's what happened to these people. They're us. They're simply me. And when you don't think someone's you don't, or have your same philosophy or your same morals or your responsibility, one doesn't fund them. We don't help them.
Yeah, I wonder how many of us, if given the same story, if given the same circumstance, if experiencing the same neglect and the same traumas, trials, and tragedies, wouldn't end up in the same place, if not a place that's worse. Like we don't know. You don't know what you're capable of or what lows you're capable of unless you go through that story. And everybody has a story, like what you're saying. You don't know the person that was raped or raised by the drug addict parent that experienced neglect, and then like layer on top of that everything else, and now all of a sudden it's like they can't cope, and their basis of trying to cope is just completely different than you and me. Maybe we're just
Right.
higher functioning, and that ability to understand and that ability to see people, like you're saying, as humans and us tied together, at least by the larger human experience. It's just, I'm fortunate that my story wasn't that horrific, that I had parents that loved me and believed in me and gave me opportunity to shine instead of get obscured into some hardship, Um, I would love for you to share any stories or a story that brings anything home. What I mean, you can share the story that I like, or any story you want. Like, you've seen a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I have. I will tell you, it's odd that here's one thing about, as much as I've had contact, I haven't been, there isn't much bad that's happened to me physically. I've been hit. So I had we had one woman that was in the chair, and of course, a lot of them are on medication. And I had a doc in working on her, and I see him back up, and he goes, "Whoa!" And she comes off in a frenzy, and she grabs the little water pistols that we have, and she's squirting him, squirting everybody, and he doesn't know what to do. So of course, I had to run over, and I tried to be as gentle, just as enough to get her. So I got around her, and I kind of hopped outside with her. Come on, you got to go, you got to go. And she didn't get at me at first. And then I got her out the door, and I turned around, and she kicked me hard in the ass, just right when I was going. This got me out of like a sucker punch. But I will tell you a story about when I was a case manager. And when I got there were 500 men in a barracks sort of hallway with no air conditioning. So you can imagine.
In Phoenix?
No AC, just swamp cooling in the middle of summer, 500 stinky guys. It was bad. I did notice, though, it was like after 6 months, I couldn't smell it anymore. I was relieved. So it went away. But I had a staff come over to me and said, one of your clients, we can't have in the shelter anymore because he smells so badly. And I thought, are you kidding me? I smell down here. Everyone smells. What do you mean? No, it's a level that people are puking. You have to take him and clean him up, and we'll let him back in. So we had a public shower toilet out in the field. So I took him out to the shower. It was a big open area. He wouldn't speak. He couldn't, I don't know, it was either he wouldn't or couldn't speak, but he would do what I told him to do. So I brought the shampoo, I brought the soap, and gave him a little space or a little privacy over there. But I had to instruct him, okay, now use the soap, use it on your chest, use it on, and I had to instruct him everything that he did. And then I said, okay, it's shampoo time. And went over, handed him the shampoo, and I said, and he had blonde hair, and it was up in like one of those things that hold the hair up, twisties or something. He had it up there. And I was standing back, and I said, okay, let that twisty out, and then you got to shampoo your hair. And this is I was probably 30 feet, so I wasn't so close to him, but he let down his hair, and it came down, I swear, it was like a damn L'Oreal commercial. It was shimmering blonde hair. I was so stunned that this guy had this gorgeous waving hair, like there was a model shoot. And I got up there because he wasn't cleaning it enough, and I said, get it closer, you got to get it, wash it. Yeah, he had blonde hair, because those were all blonde shimmering maggots. They were and that blonde L'Oreal shimmering was all blonde maggots in there. And that's where the stench was. So I had never seen, I remember almost like a Disney film. It was so beautiful.
You could write to L'Oreal and be like, hey, there's a better way to do your model shoots, If you want brilliant, shimmery hair that's alive, try maggots. Yeah, that's one of those. That's one of those moments you don't forget.
No. So back to, how could I have had a better life? I mean, how possibly? I couldn't.
So, Kris, what does Brighter Way need? Like, meaning if someone's listening and they're like, "Hey, I want to get involved or I want to help out," like I'm guessing donations always help. I'm guessing people that volunteer always help. I'm guessing awareness. Um, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever done any sort of I don't want to say courses, but like sessions. Because is this a model that could be used in other cities? Like I'm guessing people have asked you that. Like, if I want to start something in my city, is there like a framework for this?
The answer was given to me by a very smart woman about 13 years ago from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, because everyone was, I had people from all over the nation coming to ask me to help them or me to leave Phoenix and come. She was right though, so I had to. She helped me before I knew what I was doing too. She said these things in nonprofits, Kris, are not franchisable, and she had a very good. And I thought, of course they're not. And we went over everything, and so I'll tell you. Let's look at Phoenix. So I helped San Antonio. They took a part of this model. But San Antonio is one of the only cities that had the characteristics that we had here.
Mm.
Okay, so Phoenix, we have a 13-acre campus. I have now a 6,000 square foot clinic. We got that land of 13 acres for $1. And we're right by the downtown and the capital. And that was in 2005, but still, what do you get for $1? I'm helping a buddy in San Francisco right now.
No, that's too expensive. The land, yeah.
No. Okay. You have to you have to have can't get around it. You have to have a founder. And that founder better be charismatic and knowledgeable in the field. Okay, that eliminates a lot of people. You have to be sustainable for 3 years in some manner before foundations will look at you. There were elements here, and then she went on that aren't okay. I was a member of this community with ties for many years. When people ask me to come up to Colorado, sure. But this was work. It wasn't, again, there's nothing overnight.
No, you've been building for decades in this community.
Yeah. So I had to say, well, I can start meeting everyone, but I've got my place. I want to help you. I'll give you all the advice. But here's what happened. I'll tell you one instance. Well, my Berkeley friend that tried to open, he opened for a year, a nonprofit, it's closed. There was no sustainable, it was too expensive, and there wasn't any sustainability to his model. He couldn't get that up and running. As you know, we do implant programs to bring in revenue. We do trainings to bring in revenue. We do all on fours for the community to help subsidize the revenue. So all those things have to be put in place also. So no. And she was right, because again, I've been to multiple places. One of the places, it was a lovely place, what they were doing, but they wouldn't, it was here, actually. And they brought me in to help. And I said, the truth is, which I feel bad about telling you, is you have the wrong person trying to lead them. And they knew it. But they thought me coming over maybe helping. And I just had to say, you know what the problem is. I'm sorry. I wish it weren't the problem. And it went under. So yeah, no, it's not franchisable.
You have to get a lot of things right that deck is stacked against you. The odds are very, very low.
I had no idea. Again, I had nonprofits. I think there are 40,000 in the state of Arizona, and there's only a minute amount that are functioning. They're technically nonprofit. So again, I happened to get placed. I had supportive people. I had a supportive shelter. All the elements were there. I had a mothership to help me grow at first instead of just being, I didn't know anything. Grab a trailer. I hadn't been with the homeless. Grab a trailer, sit it down there. All those factors, and then having Cass as my supportive mothership to get me going.
Yep.
People come back to me and say, "Well, what you did? I did do this, but I had this whole credible entity to start under." Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all of business is like brokering trust, and you have established and earned that trust with every single year that you've been at it, even when you were just at it as a caseworker. So it's like, this story is so improbable. Like, that's what's so crazy about it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about everyone that's connected to it here. So if people do want to sew into it and people want to donate, where can they go?
So it's simple, just to go to brighterwaydental.org, just what it sounds, brighterwaydental.org. And we're no different than any other nonprofit. We're always trying to expand, to give more care to, we do the homeless, we have domestic violence victims, we have 2 pediatric clinics. All of those are for the underserved. And we need more. I want more money because I want to treat more people. That's basic. That's how our system works. But there's no exception with the nonprofit world. If I want to give a better return to my foundations and to the community, I need to do more people that are impoverished, and I need to up the quality of care. And that all takes money. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the final question.
Okay.
So you're walking down the street, and off in the distance, so this is a hypothetical, obviously, off in the distance, you see 18-year-old Kris Volcheck. And you only have one moment to communicate a sentiment to him. What do you share?
Most of what you were told is a fairy tale. That's what I'm saying. That would be my starting sentence.
Buckle up. It's going to be rough.
That Disney story we got here in America back then, buckle up. That
Kris,
would be it.
I love what you have done. I love what you're doing. Personally, I'm so thankful for the way that you have inspired me, and in the ways that you've believed just in what I'm doing. I really believe I'm still going at it because of the support of amazing dentists and friends like you. It's been easy to honor you as an innovator. When I look at someone that has the courage to show up as themselves and pioneer positive change, I can't not think of Dr. Kris Volcheck. So just for everything you've done, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me interview you today.
Oh, I appreciate that, Shawn. As I said, any way I get to interact with you, I'm going to say yes. Everything about you is your sincerity in that. I just have a big belief in you. So it wouldn't matter what you were doing. I'd get passionate with you because you bring that out too. So you have that quality. So I get why I like you so much. So, but thank you for having me on here.
Well, it has been a pleasure. So again, guys, check it out. Dr. Kris Volcheck with Brighter Way Institute.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow so you never miss an episode. To learn more about what's going on in dentistry, check out innovationindentistry.com.